Hey, good evening, everybody. Good evening. Happy Sunday to everyone. I hope everybody had a good Sunday on this beautiful day on October the first of the month, like Bone Thugs and Harmony, first of the month. But anyways, this is October the first, 2023, and I'm going to be talking about the subject dealing with evolutionary biology, linear progression, phylogenetic, and North Africans. So this brother here don't need no introduction. Obviously, he been here quite some time. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get straight to the subject. So, brother Amir, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and get started.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here, Queen. What's up? Peace.
Hey, what's up? What's up? What's going on?
All is well.
I'm glad all is well too. Yeah, all is well. So I'm just chilling on this beautiful Sunday. So, um, I want to talk about evolutionary biology and the phylogenetic and linear progression, and also we're gonna get into about North Africa. So the
Uh huh.
reason why I want to talk about evolutionary biology because I think people don't really understand evolution, and I also want to know what did people get wrong about evolution because me and us thought it was just dealing with linear progression, right? And then there are those of us that knows that it's phylogenetic, but sometimes it can be confusing when you're trying to learn about evolution. So let's just take it from there. If you can go ahead and explain what evolutionary biology is.
Well, evolution within itself means change. Bio means life. Ology means study of. So you're bearing witness to the study of life, or your biologist is the study of life or study of organisms, and evolution is the change of evolution. I mean of life, the changes that occur. Most scientists can see things at the micro level, but the macro level is where things become a problem. But at the micro level, you can see the simplicity of those changes. And we know based off observation, if you have a whole lot of cumulative changes at the smaller level, eventually you'll see the changes on the surface level. It's like when you look at like human beings being 99.9% the same, and at 0.1% we're different. But within that 0.1%, there are base pairs at 500 and something, which allows us to see distinction. Human beings haven't been and mutation traits or allele shifts, which is pairs of genes. Human beings haven't been around long enough to even been to be classified as a subspecies, regardless of the differences in what we look like. That's why the idea of race doesn't make sense. It's only one race, one species of Homo sapiens sapien that survived today. So even with the diversity of phenotypical traits that we see at the clines or demi levels, that's not enough to determine or make us a separate species because 99.9% of our genetic base, which makes up Homo sapiens sapiens, are the same. So what we see in evolution, which is the change, you have now positive selection, natural selection, sexual selection. There are multiple mechanisms that are included in evolution or change, which is part of the collective phases of evolution, which is changes within itself. So that's it on that. Um, Studying the phylogenetic tree, and we're looking at the genetics at the base, and you can see the changes in the evolutionary or the migratory routes of where people and groups come from and where they shift from, and even the phylogenetic tree even within the animal kingdom, you can see the base stem of the directions of where they're coming from and where they're not going. So the problem is that people believe that evolution just moves in one straight line, or evolution is making another species better than the next, and it doesn't work like that. It's not about better or worse. It's about organisms being able to survive long enough or being fit, being able to survive long enough to go through the changes, while some may die off. So some organisms have to be fit enough in order to sustain the selective pressures that's happening in order to go through the adjustments or adaptations. Some of them may die off, but if the organism is able to survive long enough, you see the changes occurring. That's just what comes with this thing that we call time, this period of time. So that's it on that.
Mm. And that's pretty deep. And you know what's so funny? Today I was looking at an article from iflscience.com,
Uh huh.
and the title is "Are We Really Made of Stardust?"
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just very interesting that you brought that up. How, especially about the phylogenetics, and how it's not basically linear progression, but just because we share so much in common with other species, other animals or whatnot. And just like, with the stardust, basically, like, we all come from that, what I'm saying? We all got that part in us as well. So I just thought,
You have hoax genes, which is the homeo toolkit, which shows that all of our basic limb proportions come from the same. We all made of the same limb proportions. We look up hoax genes, HOAX genes, or homeo toolkit. All of us with limb proportions all come from the same. And the further you go back in time in an evolutionary tree, the more you see that how connected we are. When you go deeper, deeper, deeply down within the phylogenetic tree, you see how connected we are. Like if I take you back 250 million years, you find us being more connected to towards, if you go back further in time, you find a connection. 150 million to 60 million years, you find the first mammals take over predominantly. 200 something million years ago, you find yourself being connected with more of those larger organisms that once exist. But you go further back in time, the further back you go, the more connected you are. So, but at the base stem, we all find hoax genes, which is this homeo toolkit, which gives us limbs, and we are made of star stuff. That stardust, those stars that died billions of years ago is responsible for allowing us to have life. The six elements that's responsible, or chemicals that's responsible for us, is carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur, that they call schnubs. And it was this that went through the basic chemical reactions to create, simple, before you have a simple amoebas, you find prokaryotics without the nucleus forming into eukaryotics. As prokaryotics fed off societies of bacteria, which evolved into the eukaryotics to form the nucleus and the complexity of what we see. So you're going to see these changes occur based off long periods of time, and time is the key element and what's responsible for the different phases or adjustments or adaptations and certain traits that's accumulated based off the long period of existence. You know what I'm saying?
mm-hmm,
So yes, we
mm,
are made of star stuff. Every organism, all life,
mm. Wow, that's that's pretty interesting. That's pretty deep right there. It's deep. Now, let's get into the concept about North Africans, right? And their ethnic background, and also, their haplogroups, and the whole conflict with the North African going against African Americans. I mean, like we some guinea pig or something. Um, yeah, let's go there. Let's build on that.
um, America is based off the concept of race. America is based off the concept of black and white. Our racism came out of reaction based off what we experienced for the last 400 years in the inception of the New World America, because this portion of America is what, 247 years old. And before that, or before the establishment of this country, our ancestors were in bondage. They were, in what we classify, or slavery. So the whole idea of race, the way we understand it in the New World, is based off what we had. All we know is black and white. And what the world doesn't realize is that black people, or what we call black people, these tropical Africans, who was responsible for building the New World, who I call Anak, African American people,
I'm sorry,
or
Ngozi, you going
Atlantean.
out. I can't hear you. You going out. Your sound. Your
Okay.
sound is distorted.
I mean, how far did you hear me?
Okay.
How
Now
far
I
did you
know
hear
you
me?
was saying about Africa, about America, and you was mentioning about black people here,
So
and before your sound started.
what I was saying is that black people classified as black people, or African North American Creoles, or Atlantean Creole people, us, is that a lot of our idea of race comes from the establishment of this country. We had
Mm-hmm.
no choice to be black because our cultures and ethnic groups were disrupted. We come from multiple ethnic groups from tropical sub-Saharan Africa. We lost that, and the only badge that we had was the labeling of what the colonizers, or the people who controlled the narrative of what was going on, called us. and that banner or badge was black, opposed to their white. So the only thing that we know based off the establishment of the New World, because it's 247 years old, is race. Race is a thing. So the first thing that we knew outside of our cultural ethnic backgrounds that was disrupted based off our colonization or being in bondage in the New World was black, because that's what we had. We knew that, down the line after a few generations, the Yoruba man shares the same skin as this Igbo man, and this Igbo man shares the same complexion as this Fulani man, or this Fulani woman, or this Fulani woman shares the same complexion as this Wanka or Wolof. We never leaked their Egyptian groups. So all I know is that because we shared a specific phenotype or certain layers within our phenotype skin, was the only thing that we know as black, and that was a badge that was slapped to us. And outside of that, after a few generations, when these ethnic groups lost their identity from being in the situation and position that they were, because you got to look at the people that they had, teenagers and babies, young people. They weren't taking a lot of old people. After these people were born in this new world, especially in the time of Christianity, when we thought
Mm-hmm.
about Africa, we knew about the Ham, Shem, and Japheth story. So Ham represents Africa. We didn't know the diversity of Africa. We didn't know that the Egyptians were, North Africa was Middle Eastern North African white, or Middle Eastern North African light skin. We didn't understand that. So when we heard the concept of Egypt or Ham, even before Leo Hansberry came in and all the elders, Egypt, because it was shared on a continent with these tropical people, we looked at that automatically as being black. We looked at Hannibal as being black because it was Africa. So a lot of our mindset comes out of reaction based off colonization and based off the position and situation that we were born in. Now we're in the field of science now, and there's a broader story to the continent of Africa. And a lot of us are not scientifically literate. So we still have this very old backwood, or I'll classify as black hillbilly mentality. We think that the true African should be black. And if it's not black, it's either an invader or something else. So the North Africans, who also has been through Arabization and different things, because they didn't give a damn in some layers of their history prior, before other people started claiming it. The first Egyptomaniac people were the people that created Egyptology. And the people that created Egyptology were Europeans who was obsessed with these beautiful people and their civilization. So you had Champollion, the French, you had Flinders Petrie, and different groups of people that created Egyptology, or the study of Egypt, because it is an amazing civilization. Then you had older concepts back in time when they talked about the Hamitic race or the Pharaonic invasion theory and different things. Flinders Petrie said the mulatto race was conquered by the people from the Fertile Crescent who dominated over them or whatever. And other people talked about, I forgot his name. He said that, could you believe that we have the people that was responsible for doing the Sphinx, or the face of the Sphinx, in bondage? So that type of shit kind of, distorts the mind. And the North African wasn't didn't go through what we went through, and they're not concerned, and they don't give a damn. They went through their own form of colonization, and they're just getting hip to their idea of their ancestors. Because at one time, when they were Arabized, and even before they were Arabized, when they were after the Ptolemaic period, when they went through their form of Christianity, they abandoned their ancestral history. I mean, they were the ones who allowed these people to take their ancestors and put them in European museums in France and different places, right? They're just getting hip to the greatness of their civilization, even though you had a phase in Egypt called the Pharaonic Pharaon phase. I forgot what it was called. It's not coming to me. But either way, um, the backwards and forwardness is coming from two worlds who don't understand one another. I'm just keeping it real.
Mm-hmm.
And and we believe, because those people look the way they look, they're not the true Egyptians, and they believe we're trying to steal their identity. And to a degree, in some layers, we're both right, because a lot of us do neglect our direct ancestors from West and Central Africa, and we want to claim ancient Egypt. That's a problem. And a lot of them, shit, they are Arabized, and they don't even know the greatness
even though they are not Arabs. They are indigenous, but they are Arabized because they some believe that. So they don't even understand it. Just getting to the understanding the greatness of their direct lineage. So this is two groups of people that's feud with each other without fully understanding one another. I'm here to say today that the modern Egyptians are the ancient Egyptians. North Africa has a long history with sharing genetic affinities with populations in the Levant for the last 23,000 years, especially Upper Paleolithic Levantine or Upper Pleistocene Levantines and the Moshabeans and Cormarusians and Cambrians before you even found the Natufian like signal already over there. The genetic exchange or continuity has been consistent for the last 23,000 years. And I'm here to say that the people that's there now that range in all those skin colors from light Palestinian light skin to some borders of being swarthy or brown. And then the further south, you have them even darker. That represents that region of North Africa. And it has nothing to
Mm.
do with us genetically. What we share in common is a continent, but our ancestors had no connection to those people. You know what I'm saying? We had our own things that we were doing, and they had their own things that they were doing, and great at what they did. And their history is part of African civilization, just like Greece is part of classical European civilization, even though a Greek is not a Breton, but Europe embraces Greece and Rome. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
find nothing wrong with people embracing ancient Egypt as being classical, but we have to know that those people are not us, and they have nothing to do with us. The people
Okay,
that's there
now
now are those people.
there's some people that may argue that our ancestors, right? We talking about the people in Central West Africa, particularly West Africans in this case, that their genetics can be traced back to those that's in East Africa, North Africa,
No, no,
because
no, no.
because
Yeah, they can try that. I don't want to cut your wisdom, but no, it's no connection because even the layers that comes from ancient North Africa is not from North Africans that was established 5,300 years ago. And the first dynasty of Egypt starts 5,300 years ago with Narmer unifying it after the third phase of the Nakata period. And we don't come from the period of those North Africans 7,000 years ago. What we do come from in layers of North Africa is from the Middle Stone Age Assyrians who gave us haplogroup E. And EM96 developed with the population that became non-Africans. So that was 75,000 years ago. And then after 75,000 years ago, I'm sorry, 72,000 years ago to 66,000 years ago, above our marker, there were already people in West Africa. One phase of these people came from archaic Homo sapiens who were intermediate between becoming Homo sapiens sapiens that was found similar to Venezuela and Morocco. That's what they're labeling as ghost populations. Another population that went into West Africa is ancient East Africans that were here 100,000 years ago.
Ngozi, Ngozi, you just went out. You just went out, Ngozi. You just went out, brother. Okay, hold on, you guys. All right. So Brother Goes are gonna get back on here, but let me speak to the chat real quick. Shout out to Brother Centavo. Hey, what's up, Brother Centavo? Thank you for coming through. All right. So Brother Goes are gonna get back on here. I don't know if you guys was picking up, but the conversation we was talking about was about the North Africans. Here you go. He's gonna finish what
So,
he go ahead.
so what I'm saying is that so you have one phase of humans over there from ghost populations or archaic humans, well, archaic Homo sapiens that was similar to Jebel Hood found in Morocco, and you have the Lubiki tools, and you have Evolutionary Biology that talks about
Ngozi, you just went out again. Just went out again, Ngozi. Let's see if I can. Ngozi, yeah, you just went out again. Just come back out and come back in. Hold on, you guys. Okay, so I don't know what happened to Ngozi. I'm gonna try to get him back on here, so y'all just bear with me. Yeah, let me try to get him back on. Yeah. So until I can get Ngozi back on, again, as y'all can see, this is the title: Evolutionary Biology, Linear Progression, Phylogenetic, North Africans. So the reason why I brought up this title about the evolutionary biology is because we have to understand about biology from the evolutionary standpoint, which deals with the study of organism and how it goes by deal with changes over the period of time, right? So evolution deals with changes over a period of time and how these organisms have developed and they were able to adapt into the environment. So when you deal with evolutionary biology, right, you have to put into the category of dealing with ecology because ecology deals with the organism have a relationship with their environment, right? And then we was also discussing about the phylogenetic or if it's linear progression as far as evolution. So a lot of time when people hear about evolution, they think it's linear progression, right? Meaning it's a straight line, but it's really not a straight line. Okay, it's phylogenetic means that it was kind of like random all over the place. So it kind of makes sense. So just think about, for example, when we deal with mammals, right? Mammals are not just only pertaining to humans or chimpanzee or monkeys, but also mammal deals with whales, right? Deals with dogs, deals with birds, all of that. You know what I'm saying? Those are in the mammal family. Okay. Anything that nurse, right, are considered to be a mammal. You know what I mean? And then we was going into a discussion about the stardust, right? Like how we all come from the stardust, deal with the cosmos. Okay. And then over time we transition into having bacteria, the prokaryote, eukaryotic cells, which brought about this particular organism what we are today, you know, different organism and different species or whatnot. Okay. And of course he was talking about the North Africans. So what he was saying is basically what we have to understand is that you know, we're not a direct descent of those from North Africa, meaning those in Egypt. Okay. Now, we do share some DNA, some of it, but not all of it. All right, here he goes.
Hello.
Yes.
Yo.
Yeah.
So yeah. So what I was trying to say was, so according to the available data, you have ancient. We're not talking about a human population. Egypt as a dynasty only starts 5,300 years ago, the first dynasty. Then you have the pre-dynastic phases, the Nakata 1, 2, and 3, and before that you have Badarians, and before that you have Tajans, and before that you have all the way back the Hellfens. Hellfens go back from 15,000 years ago. Then you have before the Hellfens, Moshabeans. Before that, you have Cormorusians going back like 35,000 years, which is close to what they found with Neslet Carter. So we don't care that all that doesn't mean anything prior to dynastic period. When the dynastic period happens, the signatures that we represent in ancient West Africa has nothing to do with those people. As a matter of fact, we don't even have anything to do with the Nilotes that was over there. The Nilotes have their own, or the Nilotes in that portion of the Nile, because once you go towards Sudan, right, out of Egypt, we're not talking about Lower Egypt, and we're not talking about Upper Egypt, because Narma was from Teton, and we don't know what it was. That area, somewhere in Upper Egypt, somewhere in Middle Egypt, we don't know. But either way, I'm gonna say he was from Upper Egypt, right? That's not Sudan. Once you pass Aswan, you're in the beginning of Sudan. And then we get into North Sudan before you even have the Karma civilization. You get into what people use with the astrology caps they had. The first skull that they found or fossils that they found in that portion was um, Wadi Halfman, who was a Nilotic. Then you find who was Dinka-like in morphology. Then you find Jebel Sahaba, 13,000 years ago. And within Jebel Sahaba, these people had like tropical limb proportions. And then 200 miles, a little bit south and further north of them, you had the Levantine, Neolithic North African Neolithic Levantine type, who were classified as Natufian type or Eastern Ibero-Mauritian type that was lingering around that area. The admixture from the north was already happening and shifted towards that, right? So the people that we come from, one layer coming from a population from ghost populations who were the predecessors of Homo sapiens sapien, which was archaic Homo sapiens, like Jebel Hood found in Morocco. Then you find East African hunter gatherers who were close to Mercy like, but not they wasn't that. Or before those types, Sendawi groups, because the purest base of East Africans is not the people that you see over there now. Not even the Nilotes. See, people don't understand that. The pure East Africans who lived in Kenya and Tanzania, if we use the modern population as a base population example, would be the Sendawi people, who was a sister group to Khoisan. The people that's close to non-African populations, if we use a modern population at base root, would be the Hadza. The Hadza are the only groups of people that's close to non-African populations, and some populations that gave rise to us, which is haplogroup E, which comes out of that non-African population, or what became non-African population, which is out of Africa, or Eurasian Adam, which came from ancient North Africa, from the Tyrian population, right? So before you even had that, according to Shamlanka finders in Cameroon, or looking at the fossils, we're gonna base Shamlanka based off Shamlanka. One was haplogroup A00, the other one was B, which shows you 10,000 years ago, some layers of our ancestors didn't exist there. Some layers of our ancestors came from people in the Green Sahara, Kefian type people who were slightly related in some layers of their DNA to further northern Africans like Ibero-Maurusians, but they mixed with Mesolithic Nilotic populations that was lingering in the southern borders. And before they fused down, these Kefian types, in the second phase of the Holocene period, 10,500 years ago into 7,600 years ago, they started to pierce south, and they mixed with those West African hunter gatherers who already had a combined situation between archaic Homo sapiens or ghost populations and ancient East African hunter gatherers who were already lingering around there. And they start to touch the tip of Mali, where you find the first classification as a Siller man. And then from Mali, they start to disperse further down into Niger. Then you find The oldest canoe found in Nigeria and northern Nigeria. Then they start dealing with pottery in Mali. Then they start dealing with the creating these after the pottery uh I don't want to say I want to get it right. They was creating pottery. A lot of stuff that we did had nothing to do with Egypt. Even from our Iron Age, when we dealt with iron, we had nothing to do with the iron outside of Africa or the BMAC culture. And when we started dealing with iron farming, our method of farming was developed by us independently. So what I'm trying to say is that we don't come from the people in Egypt. So not even our ancestors. If you want to go back to a connection between us and Egyptians, you got to go back 42,000 years when E3B and E3A first split from one another somewhere in North Africa. And then it's a strong distant bridge. No, I mean, but as a species, we're 99.9% the same. No one care. I mean, but when it comes to their unique alleles and gene expressions, they develop that independently. Just like a Nilotic person, a beautiful Dinka, as dark as they are, those people are not us. So when I hear North Africans make fun of West Africans or black people and say, look, the ancient Egyptians had y'all chained up. Them wasn't Bantus or Yoruba or Igbo or
Mm,
Fulani. Those were Nilotic people that they was fighting against over there or that they had chained up. So
mm-hmm.
they can't even use that as an example. We didn't know shit about that place. The only people that probably did was a few diggers in Chad who was trading with people in Sudan and some people that was drifting from Sahel who was middlemen. But our direct ancestors, we didn't give a damn about no ancient Egypt from the interior portions of southwest and central Africa that we come from. You
Mm-hmm.
know, now I'm sure that people in the Islamic phase, like Mansa Musa, who went over there, heard about the greatness of Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
The Phoenicians or the Punics, who came and conquered our Berber brothers or cousins in Tunisia, they knew about it. But even some Berbers didn't care about that place. Only Berbers that really had a connection, or Amazigh people that had a connection with Egypt going backwards and forth, were the ones in Libya. People all the way in Morocco didn't give a damn about no goddamn Egypt.
What and well, that's pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting because going back as you were saying, like how Europe is to, I mean, not Europe, how Roman and Greece is to Europe, Asia is to Africa.
Correct.
So it's just, it's just pretty interesting because you would think that they would find inspiration from the Egyptian as far as like their their architect, their
Right.
science, things of that nature.
Right. So Egypt is part of ancient antiquities. I mean, it's a beautiful, it belongs to, it's world history and it's part of classical civilization, just like Sumeria in Iraq. Sumeria or ancient Sumer is classical in the Fertile Crescent or in the Middle Eastern world, just like Egypt is classical to Africans or Greece is classical to Europe or or Harappa is classical to India, or ancient China from the Shang dynasty is classical to East Asia, or those people in Far East Asia. But again, a Korean is not a Japanese is not a Chinese, even though they're all Asian. They're more closer to each other than an Asian in India, right? An Indian is
Mm-hmm.
so. What we doing is here's the thing. What we doing is blacks or West African people that looks like a Hindu Indian from the Ganges Valley or from um, the Himalayas, a Hindu. I'm talking about a practicing Hindu who's from
Mm-hmm.
India
Mm-hmm.
claiming the Shang dynasty in China. That shit looks crazy. Just because they're Asians, how would it? Or that's like a modern Egyptian claiming, Timbuktu. A modern Egyptian saying that, oh, we built Timbuktu, or a modern Egyptian saying all the way in Egypt saying my ancestors was took it from Nigeria and Ghana and took it to America. That shit look crazy. It looks weird. So what I'm saying is, or that's like a Berber or Amazigh, or that's like Gaddafi, right? Who's
Mm-hmm.
everybody's Amazigh playing a Shaka Zulu. Do they look normal to you?
Nah, it doesn't.
So if we get an Indian from Bangladesh or whatever playing as a Shanghai emperor in China just because they're Asians, that they're not the same group of Asians. You see what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right. So now let's get into about the classification as far as the names of the Caucasoid, Mongoloid, the Astroloid, and Negroid, and all of that.
Mm.
So, because I know that those things can be tricky too, because when
Well,
we,
I don't want to cut your wisdom because this is a very interesting conversation.
mhm,
Hmm.
yeah, so when we look at like the skull shape, etc., right? And
Hmm.
we, based on how they did it back in the time period before science was upgraded,
Hmm.
they would say, scientists would say, the Negro represents somebody, let's say hypothetically, somebody from Central Africa or West Africa. And then
Hmm.
you'll find that the Caucasoid represents what they used to classify as the Hamite or the Shemites, those that's from North Africa, East African region,
Hmm.
etc., and that the
Hmm.
Iranians were, pretty much European descent, right? And then of course you got the
Hmm.
Archloid, and then you got the Mongoloid, which goes back to the Asian people.
Right.
Now explain that how that can be very conflicting to
So
individuals who may not
it could
fully get the understanding of it.
now now in forensic science, a lot of terms are outdated because some of these morphologies exist in places where they sometimes shouldn't. But here's the thing: they're outdated, but there's still truth to it in the sense of description, right? Most North Africans, a lot of East Africa, especially people that's like from the Afro-Asiatic language, like Somalis, Eritreans, and Oromos, and those groups, outside of the Omatic population, um, most Middle Eastern people, most people in Europe, most people in the Caucasus, morphologically do have a affinity similarities, which could be classified as Caucasoid. But those terms is outdated because that morphology did not develop in the Caucasus. That morphology predate populations in the Caucasus before you have the more gracile Caucasoid morphology, right? The even descriptive term negroid, or with the negroid taxon, you have capoid and congoid. The capoids are the Khoisan, who have the more circular globular shape, or similar to congoids, but they don't have the protruding mandibular or prognathism as populations in congoid groups, right? But there's a descriptive term, you still find it. Most ancient humans didn't look like that. So even those traits that we find in congoids are later derived. A lot of the robust Caucasoid morphology before the classification of Caucasian, which is the problem, because again, that morphology predates populations in the Caucasus. Human beings developed that morphology, especially when shift changes in agriculture, when morphology start to change and mandibulars start to shift, and a lot of that phenotype developed in the North African Levantine corridor in morphology. And even fair skin, Africans already had a variant for light skin before populations, or before it expressed itself. You had the Kitlog gene, which is a melanin cortin receptor, which is responsible for the variations of skin tone. And you have OCA2, which is a strand of albinism, which already exists in Africa 600,000 years ago, and even probably earlier, with some of our earlier ancestors before shedding their hair. Australopithecus, their fur was fair. So this fair skin is not as new as people think. It's actually, it could be ancient before you have the increase of neomelanin start to kick in, especially when we lost our fur and we got broccoli pigment through time to help protect us from the ultraviolet rays. And then you have the later strand of fair skin, because there are different reasons for fair skin. When the people start really farming and developing in the Eastern Mediterranean and Turkey with the Anatolian farmers around 8 to 9,000 years ago, and it spread and dominated around 6,000 years ago. That's the latest phase of that. So in morphology, a lot of these traits happen in Middle East and North African Levantine corridor, but before even going into Europe. Modern Europeans look nothing like upper Pleistocene Europeans. The upper Pleistocene Europeans, when you start finding um, 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 Cro-Magnon man, which is our species, Homo sapiens sapiens, They were much more robust, and they looked like less robust Australoids type people. You get what I'm saying? And that phenotype predates even in some layers Congoids, because when you look at Jabella Hood reconstruction, he doesn't look. He had the molar of European children, so his teeth were smaller. Not to mention, um, looking at Neslet Carter, who had intermediate phenotype, and he was closer to, it could be classified as Negroid, but he also had in the anterior lobe of the ear classified the upper Pleistocene Europeans, or like also skull found in Europe. So a lot of this terminology, like Negroid, a lot of this shit is later derived. And even the term Caucasoid becomes a problem because it doesn't develop in the Caucasus. So that's all a problem. But that morphology that's labeled as Caucasoid is predominant on the planet because all of Europe is Caucasoid in description, all of the Middle East,
Mm-hmm.
all of North
Mm-hmm.
Africa, and half of East Africa. Caucasoid is not a skin tone; it's a morphology. You can have a person as dark as space in India, morphologically Caucasoid, or Somali, dark as space, morphologically Caucasoid. So we shouldn't get caught up in those terms in the sense of phenotype. Congloid morphology is the lesser compared to that morphology. So it is and it's not. It is because it's outdated, and the skull type predates populations in the Caucasus, and sometimes it can be in places where it shouldn't be. They had a case in Seattle. A young
Mm-hmm.
Somali girl died. They didn't know her race, but they labeled her as Caucasoid. But when they looked at her limb proportions, they were tropical. And we know that the average Somali represents Neolithic Libertine at 40% of their DNA that was Natufian like, and 60% Omatic Dinka like DNA. But they already had an intermediate cuff. People in the Horn of Africa developed that phenotype before even populations started exiting and out, especially the pre Omatic groups. They would look similar to Maasai. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm. I see what you're saying. You know what? It's interesting. You brought up the concept about melanin, and I was just reading the book earlier about the evolutionary psychology,
Mm-hmm.
and basically in the book it goes into how not only melanin brings about darkens uh darken the skin and whatnot, to help protect against the UV radiation, which is the ultraviolet radiation from the sun, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it just had me sitting back thinking, because we hear our people say, because they have melanin or they melanate, they feel like they have the superpower or whatnot. But I mean, just break down in
Melanin.
colloquial sense of what is melanin, what's the main purpose of having the melanin in your body, like
Well,
the
well,
neuromelanin,
the amino,
phenomelanin.
the amino, it's a polymer, and the amino acid that drives melanin is tyrosine, right? And when you get into it, how your melanin works through the dermises, and it's only put in play to help protect us from the ultraviolet rays when we came out of open savanna or developed these traits in open savanna. And not just that, but the problem with too much melanin and people from sub-equatorial Africa, we classify as black people or tropical people, it's harder for us to synthesize vitamin D. We have to stay in the sun much more longer because our melanin help protect us from ultraviolet rays. So it takes us a while to absorb vitamin D compared to populations that develop in more thinner latitudes of ultraviolet radiation. It's easier for them to synthesize vitamin D. So a lack of vitamin D with us, too much of it can cause a lot of conditions like rickets, bone disorders, and even and for some phases neural tube defects. So melanin doesn't make you, super. It's beneficial, but you also have to watch certain things that you need. That melanin, too much melanin can block out. Just same way with your euros, if they don't receive enough vitamin D, or they have to protect their folic acid, and if that's not protected, it can cause damage, even to them. So when you're studying that, so what I'm saying is nobody's superior and nobody is inferior. We both have our place in nature based off the adaptive traits that we come from. And that's the problem with people. People believe that one group of people is more superior than the next. And evolution don't work like that. Some genes is more beneficial than other. Like you can have good melanin is good. Don't get it twisted. It's rich. It helps. It's helpful for you to stay in the sun much longer than other people. It's less prone to catching cancer, skin cancer, right? It is. It's less prone to it, even though in some cases it happens to a lesser degree, but it's less prone to it. But You may be good with your melanin, but you may have certain genes that's responsible for a bad heart, and it could be
Mm.
hereditary in your family. But this human being that developed in the Arctic got genes for a strong heart, and also have genes for its strength levels. People in Iceland are some of the strongest people in the world. You know what I'm saying? But people in tropical Africa have fast twitch muscles. You feel me? That's why a lot of us are good at sports and certain things. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there are pros and cons to all groups of people based off the regions of this planet that we develop in, and we shouldn't look at it like a superior thing because the black is not superior over so-called white, and the white is not superior over black. It doesn't work like that. Evolution doesn't work like that.
Oh, so let me ask you this. Um, do you think that based on certain individual blood type, such as the recessive gene, the dominant gene like the AB, the ones with the double O's, which represents the recessive gene, etc. Do you think
So to
based
answer,
on those, yeah, yeah, based on those recessive, based on the genome type, right? You think that a person could be more prone to having certain type of disease or a certain type of bacteria infection to their body because of their
nah,
genes
I
being
mean,
recessive or dominant?
some things can be hereditary. I mean, we know that blood type O is universal. Um, you can't say that because when you say that, it falls in line with pseudoism because you can have people that have that's O negative and they don't have those issues like people that's
Mhm.
B positive. And you can have certain things is hereditary based off lifestyle and patterns that your family consistently live in, which creates the hereditary condition because they're prone to it. You feel me? It's not a blood type thing. You see what I'm saying? Because you can have
Okay.
somebody that has the same blood type as you and they don't have the issues that you have. So when you're studying antigens or blood types, you have to understand how they function. If you look into it, look up blood antigens, you can see what's going on, but it has nothing to do with like this blood type is more prone to this. You have the same blood type as somebody and they're not prone to it. It becomes pseudo when you start. It's like they have this stuff, eat for your blood type. Like the species that we represent needs the proper protein, proper carbohydrates, proper fats, and going outside of the range of too much that you're supposed to have creates problems. You see what I'm saying? Eating too much proteins can affect your kidneys. Eating too much fat can build up process, especially if you have hereditary traits of cholesterol, puts plaque on the arteries. You have to understand your physical anatomy, your physique, and understand the direction that you need. That goes on the blood type of what are you more prone to? What runs in your family inherently or hereditarily, which cause certain traits to kick off. What triggers these signals?
Mm, mm. Okay. All right. So let's go in. Let's go into the concept about behavior, right? It goes back to evolutionary biology. So when we're looking at behavior and how we adapt into environment, nurture versus nature, this is where epigenetic comes in, right? So let's just build
Mhm.
on that for a little bit.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah, let's just build on how uh, the environment can have an effect on our behavior patterns,
Oh,
and how
absolutely. I
it
mean,
um,
yeah, search
bring about the
epigenetics.
nurture versus nature, epigenetics, and all.
Yeah, well, certain environments and certain situation environments can turn genes off and on. We're looking at responses of hormones, pairs of genes, hormonal expression, which affects us. What triggers you and what doesn't trigger you. And certain poor quality environments creates poor mentalities. Rich quality environments create rich mentalities. And you do have outliers in between because you have people that make it out of it and don't want to go back. Especially when you find hereditary traits that's problematic, and environmental traits that goes on consistently within your family that's problematic. You have generations of people because they come up in certain environments who, on average, in some lanes of their life, the men don't even see past 25. They have a short range of groups of men that I know personally within a family, niggas ain't seeing past 30. You see what I'm saying? I don't want to use that word on the show, but I'm just saying
It's
it
okay.
happens environmentally. Environmentally. So, if you have certain traits and behaviors, like let's say Bam Bam up the street, that's the Jones family. I'm just using that as an example. They tough and nobody wants to fuck with them. And they're known for being this type of person. That mentality, that dominance in the environment, that type of the behavior pattern that they already create, because we're primates. We can't disconnect from our primate. We're part of the animal kingdom. We are great apes, and as primates we have an ego. And if this family is classified as the alpha family, and they function in a certain way, known for fighting, known for doing whatever, motherfuckers get intimidated by them. And if something happened to one of them, it's gonna be some shit, because people know that they're known for doing that. So you're born and whoever's born through that line, especially the men, they're
Hmm.
known for being hitters. So you're already born with the stresses of, hey, I'm a Jones, I gotta act a certain way. You see what I'm saying? So of course.
All right, and I'm glad you kind of brought that up. So now let's look at the difference between men and women behavior. All right, so what would cause a man to be a little bit more aggressive? Just be actively aggressive. What I mean, just be what you would call. I won't want to use the word macho man, but
I mean,
just like
testosterone,
hyper.
testosterone. I mean, men tend to produce more testosterone than females. Now, you do have women who have, high levels of testosterone, and they can come off, kind of aggressive too. But on average, men produce way more testosterone, and this is what's going on with it's average. Like if a man has a high level of testosterone, and if he doesn't, organize those hormonal expression properly, he may be a wild motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to curse because your show can get messed up, but he may be very macho like. Very
Mhm.
macho like, because of the high levels of testosterone. But I'm not saying testosterone is beneficial. Don't get it twisted. But if it's not orchestrated and organized based off the person's behavior, if they don't know how to cope or deal with that level, it can come off very savage like. You see what I'm saying? Just like if
Mhm.
too much estrogen can be a problem. If a man is producing too much estrogen in his body and he's a man, that affects his mammalian gland, which creates a condition called gynecomastia. They find breasts. They have these looser even certain ways that they act, which can be problematic because he's not producing enough of it. So, and even with a woman, too much high levels of estrogen can be problematic, because even though she produces more estrogen than the man, because that's how life, allow her to express her chemical reaction as a female, too much of it can make you more prone to cancer. You know what I'm saying? Too much high
Really?
levels of estrogen. Yeah,
Really?
look it up. Yeah, too much estrogen at higher levels. Like you have, for example, cases of women that took birth control, and because
Mhm.
birth control already have high levels of estrogen in it, a lot of these women are prone to catching forms of breast cancer because of too much of the estrogen flow. And you can look this stuff up as I speak, so people can hear. You can read it, so people can hear what's going on. It's like too much estrogen can cause too much higher levels of estrogen can cause cancer. I want you to look that up and read it.
All right, I will do that. As a matter of fact, I'm about to pull it up right now in Ngozi.
Go
I'm about to pull
ahead.
this. Wow. So let's see. This come from Cleveland Clinic website. All right. All right. Hold on. If it's gonna pull up, see if it's gonna pull up. All right. Here we go. So it says estrogen dependent cancer. So estrogen dependent cancer like breast cancer, ovarian cancer, and endometrial Cancer rely on estrogen to develop and grow. Treatments can stop your body from making estrogen or prevent hormone receptors from binding to estrogen. People who use estrogen hormone therapy for menopause symptoms may be more prone to estrogen dependent cancers. Did you hear me?
Yeah, yes, and there's a few other articles on that. So that's what I'm saying. We have to know, our place and how hormones express itself because that's what we really are. We
Hmm.
respond to the hormones and the levels of hormones. So we have to understand what's what. So too much of anything outside of its normal range is problematic to the organism. I'm just keeping it real with you. Just know your
Mm.
place.
Mm. Now the other day, hold on, I'm gonna get you back on here. Okay, so the other day we was having a conversation and you brought up that black people are more than likely to become schizophrenic. Why
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, okay, most Africans or people of African descent are prone to high forms of schizophrenia. I'm not saying that you don't. I'm not saying it's higher in our community. Just like Parkinson's disease, like Parkinson is low dopamine production. Alzheimer's is protein clusters in and around the neurons. They're finally more common in Europe. But people from North Africa and the Middle East are more prone to Parkinson's, and Africans are more prone to schizophrenia. Even with the high levels of fast twitch muscles that we have as tropical people, it's also in kinship to the high levels of prostate cancer in, in black men at the highest rate. We're more prone to it. But looking at schizophrenia, that's one major condition neurologically, and the way we express ourselves that we're more prone to. It's a lot of complexities that come with it. So every group of people have their pros and cons to living. Like most Europeans are more prone to catching cystic fibrosis, and they also have their own things like 88 ADRA2B gene. The way they deal with emotions are sympathetic. They're more prone to that. Or we have more prone also to the warrior gene, you know, in tropical black Africans, based off the regions that we come from. Um, it's just a lot. Uh, the Africans retain a lot more sodium or salt levels than any other groups of people. I mean, this is why a lot of us are more prone to catching high blood pressure.
right?
Retaining too much sodium, with them, not to mention poor diets. It's a whole lot of things that occur which makes us function the way we function. So we
Hmm.
have to be able to understand um, why the behavior patterns of us mentally and with our ailments, we have to understand that so we can be able to control this control the situation that can occur. That's why right now
Hmm.
we're able to talk about it and find solutions to not put us at risk for a lot of these traits.
Mm. So, okay, I don't want to make this about a gender thing, but okay, between the genders, who you think will be more than likely to become schizophrenic when it comes to male females?
Shit, I mean, I don't know, man. They all be tweaking. I
Well,
mean, if you coming from where I'm from, shit, they all see shit that ain't there. They act a fool.
oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
So, not to mention the warrior gene. My gosh, whew, not to mention the environments that they in. God damn. Not to mention the vitamin D deficiency. It's harder for us to synthesize vitamin D in major cities. Man, I'm dealing with a problem. These people is damaged. These people are fucked up, man. They just, oh my God, it's just so harsh. Stop Allah.
I mean, so like, but what about the fact that all these drugs is coming out? The drugs that's only free, like the fentanyl, the
You
Tranquil,
got
and all of that.
fentanyl, you got the pills, all that shit. Listen, you already have crazy. You never got the full help that you need. You have all types of emotional, psychological disorder that runs in your family, and none of y'all got help for it. Then you find, your coping mechanism with drugs and alcohol. What type of people you think you're gonna deal with? You like this is a pile on top of a pile on. Goddamn, you dealing with some goddamn weirdos. I hate to say it, they weird. They chopped and screwed people. So I wouldn't trust it. You know what I'm saying?
Right, but then we also have to look at as a societal issue
Hmm.
only because like let's deal with it like in the pharmaceutical industry, the medical
Yeah.
industry.
Uh-huh.
Um like there was an article out about Purdue, I believe. Um and there was some issues regarding to the fentanyl, well, not the fentanyl, what is it called? The opioid.
Yeah.
So, and we see a lot of that crisis taking place on the street. So I came across videos where in Philadelphia there's this area called Kensington. I think
Yeah.
that's what it's called. And there's a lot of people on the street who are hooked on opioids and fentanyl, and they pretty much got them walking around looking like zombies. You know what I mean? Like
Hey,
they're
Tiffany. Tiffany.
yeah,
Tiffany. Tiffany. Tiffany.
yes,
Tiffany.
yes.
Let's call him. I'm gonna
Cause
call you.
you
I'm gonna get back on here. Okay.
okay,
Uh,
all right, okay, all right. So like brother Ngozi is saying, to piggyback off of what the brother was talking about. Yes, it's very important for us to really like know a little bit of scientific knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Because it goes a long way, especially dealing with health as a people, right? Dealing with our health as far as mental health, emotional, physical, all of that. Science can go a long way. So we really have to get on top of studying a lot of things. So until the brother get back, these are the book recommendation that I recommend you guys to get. All right. So this book here is called Evolutionary. I know y'all can't see. Hold on. Maybe y'all can't see it. Hold on. Let me see some. All right. Maybe you guys can't see it. Let me see something real quick. Let me try to get this virtual background off of here. All right. Okay, so you guys, this book right here is called Evolutionary Psychology, right? So the Evolutionary Psychology book just basically deals with it explains evolutionary biology, right? From a psychology standpoint, how over the period of time, you know, as far as organism and our functions and whatnot, and how we able to survive and adapt into the environment, and how we create cultures and things of that nature. So this book is something that I will personally recommend for you guys to really check out, get into. Okay, and then also I have another book right here. I just got this book a few days ago. It's about anthropology. So this book is called Anthropology: Everything You Need to Know. Master the subject in one book. All right. So as I mentioned, there's different phases of anthropology, right? There's different phases. Hmm, okay. Hold on, I'm trying to. Well, I can't get my background back on here. Bump it. Anyways, but there's okay, got it. So there's different phases of anthropology, right? So you got biological anthropology, you have cultural/social anthropology, you have linguistic anthropology, and you have archaeological anthropology. Right. So those subject matters are very, very important. They're very important. And also I have another book that I recommend to y'all. I'll be right back. All right. So this book right here, well, you guys, oh my good, y'all can't see me. Okay. This book right here is called, get this virtual background off here real quick. All right, this book right here is called Black Health Matters, which is written by Richard W. Walker Jr. So, again, especially as African descendant people, we really got to understand our health and understand the importance of why we must study about health, and how our health is a contributing factor due to racism, due to slavery, due to poor diet, and basically how why we behave the way we do, and why it's important for us to make sure that we take in proper nutrition, work out, and release stress and all that. So also I had looked up in an article about black fatigue. Black fatigue is something serious, and I spoke on it in one of my videos where as black people we pretty much get tired, especially when we in the workplace, in a work environment, and we have to pretty much deal with so many demands and so much pressure that's going on with us. So yeah, that there's information on that. And there's another book called Weathering by Arlene Jernamis. So Arlene Jernamis is I guess she's a psychologist, but she studies about how pretty much work environment it affects certain group of people, and she put a lot of focus on African American women and how we become very affected by just overload amount of stress. So when you're weathering, that means you become weary, you become tired, you become depressed or whatnot. Yep. So, but this is a great conversation, and this conversation is very important. It's very important only because we really need to know these things, and we really need to just have an open mind about various subject matters. So again, this is why we have to get into dealing with psychology, biology, and understanding phylogenetics, genetic traits, heredity. I mean, inheritance, as far as like what type of disease you inherit, all these different things. We should be able to know a little bit something. You're not gonna know everything in the book, but you're gonna learn something that's going to benefit you in the long run, and that will help you out in the long run. So at least know the basis of things, But I hope you guys was able to get the information that Brother Ngozi had put out there. He comes in with a lot of great information, a lot of great knowledge and whatnot. Yep. Um, Let me see. Again, shout out to Brother Centavo. Shout out to New Black World Order. Thank you guys for coming through. And for those of you who are watching, thank y'all for coming through. And I'm just waiting to see if the brother's gonna come back on with some more information so he can share with the people. And then I'm gonna close it out. So you guys, I'm gonna go ahead and kind of step away for a little bit so I can figure out if this brother gonna come back on here. Right. So I'll be back. All right, you guys, I'm back. I'm still waiting for Brother Ngozi to come through, but if you guys have any comments or any questions and you want to put in the chat, please do so. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, share the channel, and then also check out all my previous videos that I've done on here so you guys can look that up for yourselves. Check out all the videos, the titles and whatnot. I have a playlist that I put together, so you can look on the playlist to see what videos I did, and you guys can look into that for yourself. All right. Yep. Well, anyways, let me talk a little bit about the game. All right. So I'm not really into football like that. However, I was watching the Falcons play against Jacksonville, and it was pretty disappointing. Very disappointing. So to see that Jacksonville done blew the hell out of the Falcons. I think it was 23-7. Yeah. So they need to go ahead and get them a new quarterback. Because the quarterback they got is not putting in no numbers. So they need to go ahead and get rid of the quarterback so that way the Falcons can get back on their game for real. But yeah, I just had to kind of like put that out there. I'm pretty disappointed. And I don't think they starting the season off very right. But then again, I don't really keep up with football like I used to anymore. Because there's been so many changes, been so many rules going on, and I have a lot of skepticism about football. I really do. I have a lot of skepticism because there's so many former players who have passed away and current players as well that's not really doing too well on their health. So it's just a lot of question that's going on regarding to the NFL that I have as far as the death of these NFL players. And they dying at a very young age. Some of them dying at the age of 25. Between the ages 25 to about 40 something. So they don't even have that much life expectancy in them. Yeah. So it seems like football is more dangerous than boxing, in my opinion. It seems like football is more dangerous than boxing because, yeah, so many youngsters deal with concussion and whatnot, but you would think in boxing, that's where a lot of concussion taking place because they don't wear headgears and things like that, or they don't wear knee pads, but at the same time, they getting punched in the head, punched in the face. You would thought that these people are dealing with concussion, but nah. These bosses don't go through half the shit that the NFL players go through. It's just really, it's mighty strange. And it's another reason why we gotta deal with health. This is another reason why we gotta deal with science. We really gotta understand. We gotta understand the neuroscience, neurology when it comes to this. We really gotta understand because we gotta realize how much our brain can take as far as like dealing with all type of pressure and memory is concerned. The brain itself is nothing more than like a SD card. All right. It's like a SIM card, a memory card. So it can only store so much information, and then the rest of the information is going to discard or it's going to get rid of because it may not feel like it's useful or valuable. So the only way it could be able to make room for other information or other things to come in if it discards other information that is unuseful. All right. So your brain pretty much operates like a memory card, like a SIM card. It operates in the form of gigabytes without being at gigabytes, but it's pretty similar. So when people deal with all the concussions and getting hit in the head and things like that, it affects not only the brain activity but can also alter their behavior at the same time. Yep. Okay. So I don't think Brother Ngozi gonna come back on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and close it out. But I want to thank everybody that's tuning in, watching, and listening to this video, or trying to take in as much knowledge as possible. I thank you all for sharing the video. Thank you for your comments. For those of you that's just coming in, you have to watch the video from the very beginning to see what the subject is about. So now, in between, you may not be able to pick up on everything that Ngozi was saying because his sound was going in and out, and there was like a pause in between the sentence. So if you could pick up as much as you can, that's great. As far as like the valuable jewels that he was dropping, but otherwise, yeah, it was like something going on with his sound. It was very distorted and it was kind of hard to hear from the beginning. However, it's always great to have him on here. I really appreciate the work that the brother is doing. He's doing a magnificent job. He's really taking his precious time out of the day to actually bring forth knowledge and information to people like me and the rest of the audience out there. All right, because it's not too many brothers and sisters that's in the scientific field that's willing to take their time to actually give the knowledge to the people and educate the people. So, and he's one of the few that is very genuine, and he's actually doing a magnificent job putting in the work behind it. So, it's always great to have Brother Ngozi around. It's always great to have him on here to just share the knowledge and give in the information. He does a magnificent job. He really does. And and to really understand him, I would encourage you guys to study anthropology. Start off with anthropology as a basic at the beginner level to really get the glimpse of what Ngozi talking about, and then work your way up to biology, and then work your way up to astronomy, astrophysics, or whatnot. So the brother is very thorough when it comes to science. So although he has his degree in biology, he's very thorough about other scientific fields of study. I mean, he can go in and talk about physics, anthropology, astronomy, ecology. He can talk about medical biology stuff, microbiology, evolutionary biology. He can really go in. All right. But anyways, you guys, y'all take it easy. Thank y'all so much. I really appreciate y'all. So until next time, peace and power elevation. It's your girl Tiffany. I'm logging off saying deuces. Thank you. And check out the glasses. I love these beautiful glasses right here. Very beautiful. Yeah. I love them. Very fantastic. But yes, make sure you guys, excuse me. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and if you got any comments, leave it below the description box, and I will try to respond as much as I can, as much as possible. But all right, then let me go ahead and close it out. Peace and power. Have a great evening.